Aloha and welcome to Action Island. I am Gilles Gallant, and we are back for the 2025 NFL season opener between the Cowboys and the Eagles. And today I'm joined by Grant Neiffer, Nick Giffen, Sean Koerner, all our prop experts, and the four of us. We're going to give our two best bets for tonight's Thursday night football clash. So here's how it works: two picks each from us. They're going to be our best bets. Then we're going to take a vote. We'll vote on every pick, and by the end of the show, we'll have a nice four-leg same game parlay for you. And also, just a reminder for all of our picks, we're going to be dropping links in the chat. That'll help you get quickly bet these lines because, as you know, there's some people who have some influence and those lines could move fast. So we want to make sure that you get the best price and the best number. So use those links in the chat and then you can thank us later. So let's start now with Grant, who I just want to say is right now the home run goat right now. He is just crushing it with Major League Baseball home run picks, but he has got two bets now for Thursday Night Football. Grant, what are your two bets for tonight's game?
All right, so they're both of the same player. I'll just get that spoiler alert out here, and it's George Pickens. And the first one is George Pickens for a TD plus 240, which just seems absolutely absurd for me. Like, George Pickens is a great wide receiver. It's going to be a perfect fit over in Dallas. Dallas really does not have much of anyone to do anything in the red zone. And yes, George Pickens is more of a downfield threat, but he is going to be thrown to a lot in the red zone. The Cowboys were second to last in the league in red zone efficiency last year, just absolutely terrible. Only scoring a touchdown like 43% of trips to the red zone. Couldn't really do much. And now this year, their run game is going to be worse. Like pretty much by every metric, it's going to be drastically worse. Pickens has never had a good quarterback to throw him. Like he's mostly mediocre to well below average. Fields, Pickens, or Pickett rather, and Russell Wilson, all terrible. Now Dak, drastic upgrade. Dak really hasn't had a great wide receiver too. I mean, Cooks was fine, but he hasn't had a great one since Cooper and Lamb were together 4 or 5 years ago. And now he's got Pickens, and so he's going to be able to rely on him more. I know that Lamb is going to eat up a ton of usage in this offense, but Pickens is going to get a ton of deep ball. It only takes one ball thrown for him to just go to the house 50, 60, 70 yards. He can do it absolutely. And now he has a guy that can help him facilitate that. So just a perfect spot where he should be used heavily in the red zone because they got nothing else going for them. And he's a great deep ball threat. And I know that the Eagles were one of the best teams in the league at limiting deep throws and deep passes, but they're not the same defense they were last year. Obviously, a lot of guys left, so they're still probably going to be above average, but not nearly the same they were last season. So Pickens plus 240 seems like silly odds for a guy this good.
All right, so George Pickens touchdown, great start. Love the odds here. You already let the cat out of the bag that you might be having a second prop for this player. So what is the second bet?
The other prop is just over his receiving yards, 54 and a half. And I decided to go a little bit conservative on this one because I want to touch on the last one, but I have no problem laddering it up to 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110 yards. Like we know what Pickens can do. We know how big of games he can have. And again, this is the best quarterback he's had in his career. He's a huge deep ball threat. He should still get decent volume. Even with Lamb eating up a decent amount of targets, Dak's still projected to throw it 36, 37 times in this game. And with the game script then being an 8.5 point dog here, they're likely going to have to throw the ball the entire game. Yes, the Eagles will probably eat up the clock a little bit, but they're still going to pass the ball a lot because their run game is atrocious this year. And everything kind of points towards Pickens probably getting a decent amount of volume. Yes, can spread the ball out, but Pickens is going to get some deep balls in the spot here. It just takes one for him to go over. He hit the over at this number in 9 out of 15 games last season. And again, I could see a potential game script of Dak throwing the ball 40, 45, even 50 times in this spot here. So I'm expecting the volume to be pretty good for Pickens. And with his deep ball ability, he can just take off at any time. So don't be afraid to hit that ladder all the way up to 100, 110, where you can get like 5, 6, 7, 8 to 1 odds.
I love the aggression. I love that. And I love the double down on Pickens, who could have just a huge game in the opener here. So, Nick, Sean, we've got to vote now. George Pickens touchdown, or are we going to take the over on his receiving yards at 54 and a half? Let's vote. All right, gentlemen, let's see what the vote is. Are we taking George Pickens touchdown or are we taking the over on his receiving yards? I voted for over 54 and a half. What do you guys like? All right, that is a clean sweep of over 54 and a half receiving yards for George Pickens. So that'll be the first leg of this four-leg same game parlay we're going to be doing for Thursday Night Football. So now we move over to Sean Koerner. Now, Sean, some of these props I imagine you're going to give out, they might move pretty much as soon as you utter the words. What are your two bets for Thursday Night Football?
All right, so I have two different routes for us to take. The first is a boring, way more likely hit, and the second's, an exciting one to kind of boost the payout for this. But the first one's Dak Prescott under 7.5 rushing yards. He only cleared this two times last year in 8 games. His scramble rate was way down, just below 2% last season. He only had 5 design run plays all of last season. Most of them were, QB sneaks. So he only averaged around 2 yards on those run plays. And this was all before he tore his hamstring off the bone and ended his season back in week 9. So I would imagine, coming off another major lower body injury, entering his age 32 season, I'd be shocked if his rush rate bounced back to his earlier level. So I think this number is way too high. Yes, I know it's boring, but I want a gimme play for us to throw in there. So we can go with that one, or we get wild here and go with my guy Kevontae Turpin, anytime touchdown at plus
Yes.
700. He's at plus 800 now at FanDuel. That's the best odds currently. He's always sneaky in this market because the last 2 seasons, he scored a touchdown in 6 of 29 games. So, the fair odds on his historical rate would be around plus 400. And that was in a very limited role. And there's some buzz right now that he's ahead of Jalen Tolbert as the wide receiver 3. So he could actually see more playing time out of the gate here. And he also gets, 1 to 2 design rush attempts a game, and he's averaged over 7 yards a carry in his career. He has a rushing touchdown as well. And just given, how weak this running back room is, they could opt to give him a couple more, design carries, especially, once they get into the red zone. So he has multiple paths to score here. And he's also, one of the best return men in the league. So with this new kickoff rule, sort of encouraging kickoff returns, he might get a couple extra cracks to get a touchdown that way. So I just think he has so many paths to get there. I'm projecting him closer to 4 to 1, and he'll definitely, boost our payout here if we go with him.
For sure. And fun fact about Turpin, he's actually been the most profitable Dallas Cowboys anytime touchdown scorer in each of his last 2 seasons. So anytime we can get Kevontae Turpin mentioned on this show, I'm all for it. And I don't think there's anything boring about the Dak Prescott pick because if it wins, what's boring about that? So, all right. So let's look at these two bets. Grant, Nick, we've got Dak Prescott under 7.5 rushing yards, or we could take Kevontae Turpin anytime touchdown. Let's vote. All right, guys, are we going with the boring route, as Sean Koerner mentioned, or are we going to take some excitement and boost up this parlay here? I went with the exciting route. I took Kevontae Turpin anytime touchdown. What did you guys do? All right, it is Turp. Oh, Dak. Okay, so there wasn't consensus, but that's all right. I know that Nick, we talked about this quite a bit. That Dak is kind of one of the more favorite bets of this. But for me, I say it's Turpin time. Let's boost up this parlay here and get it to astronomical odds here. But first up, before we move on to more picks, if you want access to all of Action Pro projections, make sure to sign up for an annual subscription to Action Pro. Access includes exclusive player prop picks from Sean Koerner, other members of the Action Analytics team like Nick Giffen or Grant Neiffer. You can also get access to our best spread, money line, and total bets, along with real ticket and money percentages. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today and use code ISLAND20 at sign up. One more time, that's ISLAND20 at sign up for $20 off. All right. Nick Giffen, it is your turn, buddy. What are your two favorite bets for Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, well, I can already feel kind of sharp because I wrote down in our outline this morning over 47.5 for the game total, and it's moved up everywhere to 48, 48.5. So take the alt total of over 47.5, right? That gets you that, key number of 48. 47 and 48 are the two most key numbers between, what was it, like 44 and 51. So make sure you get the 47.5. Go with this alt total here. But look, just as a starting point, if we look last year, these two teams averaged 44 points in the two games they played, and that was with Cooper Rush at quarterback in both games. And in the second game of the year, Kenny Pickett, we got McKee in there as quarterback for the Eagles. And in those games, the expected score, which is our Action Network metric that drives our luck rankings, the expected score in those games averaged 48 points. So those games actually came in below expectation in terms of what the scores could have been. Well, now we get, Dak Prescott as a clear upgrade to Cooper Rush. How many points is that worth? 3, 4, potentially. We also have, of course, Jalen as an upgrade over Kenny Pickett in that second game. It's just the point where even if we don't just look at those scores, if we look at the total last year in that week 10 game, the closing total was 44.5. So if you add those 3, 4 points from Dak Prescott, now we're pushing that 47.5 number. But then you also have to adjust for all the personnel, and the big adjustments, of course, are, as Grant talked about, George Pickens. Dak Prescott has him as at his disposal now, so that should really help the Dallas offense. And there's huge questions for both defenses. The Eagles, they lost so many players this offseason. They lost, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Darius Slay, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, Isaiah Rodgers, Oren Burks, Brandon Graham, right? I mean, that is a lot of players they lost on the defensive side of the ball. They did draft a couple guys defensively in the first and second rounds, but early in the season, while they're still trying to gel, get used to NFL pace, I think that's the time to back, fading the Eagles defense at this point. I think they'll still be strong, maybe not quite as strong as last year as they progress through the year, but this is the time I want to attack. And of course, the Cowboys' big loss of Micah Parsons just traded away, a handful of days ago. So I think both of these defenses may be a little weakened compared to what they were last year. And we have the kickoff rule change, which make sure you check out Sean's game preview article. He talks a lot about this and how it could really affect things. But I think on aggregate, it would be in better starting field position, and that'll shorten fields and lead to higher scoring. So I like the alt total over 47.5 as my first pick.
All right. So when the King of Luck ranking speaks, we got to listen, right? So he likes the over 47.5. What is your second bet, though, Nick?
Bet number 2, I'm going to go back to Dak Prescott, and this correlates really well with Sean's 2 picks here, which, of course, he gave a Turpin touchdown. So if you're going to have a touchdown, Dak is possibly going to throw it to him. It could come on a return. It could come on a rush as well, but possibly Dak could be throwing it to him. And if Dak's going under on the rushing yards, he's not running much, so he's throwing the ball instead of scrambling when he does drop back. So I'm going to take Dak over 240 or 240 plus, I should say, alt pass yards. If you want to just go with the regular over 244.5 as his line, I think is at FanDuel as well. Fine with that. But for parlay purposes, we can say, let's just go 240 plus. And this is a game between two teams that ran around 65 plays per game last year. So plenty of play volume. And if we get in that expected situation where Dallas is a big underdog, meaning they'll be trailing, Dallas last year was number 7 in pass rate and number 2 in pace when trailing, which, of course, like I said, is the expected situation. And Philly, they played around neutral to slightly faster among teams with a lead. So the pace could really ramp up here, and Dallas could be throwing a whole lot if they are trailing as expected. And that's part of why, if you know about our show, and if you don't, make sure you tune in the Action Network Discord to Bet What Happens Live. It is our live betting NFL player prop show where we'll be literally live betting player props during the game. So make sure you join the Action Network Discord for that. But our Bet What Happens Live model actually has Dak at 38.3 pass attempts, which is 1.8 more than his current line of 36.5. So really, he could ramp up to 40 plus pass attempts, as Grant was talking about earlier as well. So I like Dak to go over his passing yards.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see way these lines move by the time we get to halftime. And as you mentioned, Bet What Happens Live, halftime of tonight's show featuring Grant and Nick, where they're going to be making live bets going into the second half. So make sure to tune in. But before we do that, Nick, Grant, we got to vote on these two, or Nick and Sean, rather, we've got to vote on these two bets. So let's take a look over 47.5 or Dak over 240 all pass yards. Let's take a vote. All right, Grant, Sean, did we go with the total or are we going to be taking Dak passing yards? I went with Dak passing yards. What'd you guys do? All right, so a clean sweep. We're all on Dak, 240 plus passing yards. Key thing too, make sure to shop around for that. I know that line is a little bit shifting around the place, but right now I believe at DraftKings we're still able to see Dak over 240 alt pass yards for that. And also, before we round out this parlay, if you're on Twitter, we have a great new feature at Action Network. It's called Playbook. So if you see a bet from any of your favorite action experts or anyone on gambling Twitter for that matter, you can now tag Playbook and our AI bot will build you a bet slip at a sportsbook of your choice. It's really that simple. You no need to try and find what menu these bets are under or all the different parlay legs. Just tag Playbook in the post and it will build it for you, and use Playbook and build your bets the easy way. All right, so I still got a couple bets, guys. I'm going to throw out a couple touchdown bets for you guys. I want to see what you guys think. First one I'm going to throw out here is Dallas Goedert. I grabbed that at 3-1. Look, I know he only had 2 touchdowns last year. I think this is a matchup where he can thrive. The Cowboys secondary, they were 24th in defensive DVOA versus tight ends last year. And frankly, they didn't really do much to improve that area, especially now with Micah Parsons gone. And Matt Eberflus, who was running the defense, typically in his time, whether it be with Chicago or with Indianapolis, he typically ran a more zone-heavy scheme with an emphasis on cover 3. And if he does that, I think this is going to be perfect for Goddard, who has historically just done well versus zone defense and cover 3. So Dallas Goedert would be the first touchdown bet that I would like to put on this parlay. But the second one, I'm going to stick with the tight ends. I'm going to go with Jake Ferguson. I grabbed him around plus 330. Look, I'm just going to say it. I mean, the whole Dallas Cowboys team, but Ferguson just complete dud of a season. He missed time. Dak Prescott got hurt, but I just think there is some positive regression for touchdowns coming for Ferguson. Averages almost 7 targets per game with Prescott at quarterback last year. And again, if we're talking about the Cowboys expected to be in a trailing game script, more passing opportunities. So I think Ferg right now on the Cowboys side, a lot of the value is more on the Cowboys side from a touchdown prop standpoint. But Jake Ferguson and Dallas Goedert are my 2 favorite anytime touchdown bets for this game. So Grant, Nick, Sean, why don't we take a vote? Which guy would you like to add to this parlay? All right, guys, we've got Cavante Turpin anytime touchdown on this parlay. We're going to add another one. Which one did we go with? Dallas Goedert or Jake Ferguson?
Gilles, this one's for you. The Dallas not Cowboys. The Dallas Goederts.
I am just walking into a slaughter tonight, right? With this game. It's okay. So Dallas Goedert, anytime touchdown. We are going to add that as the final 4th leg of this parlay. Now, obviously, you could shop around and find it, but right now, if you go to DraftKings and you take these 4 legs, so that would be George Pickens over on his receiving yards, Cavante Turpin, anytime touchdown, Dak Prescott over on his passing yards with an alt line of over 240, along with a Goddard anytime touchdown, that parlay comes out to around 70-1 at DraftKings. So I would also say if you are on DraftKings, or a lot of the time DraftKings, FanDuel, a lot of these sportsbooks, they use these like no sweat tokens kind of thing, or free bets, free rolls. That would probably be the case for this, where I would use that, because again, at 75-1, if you shop around, you don't want to overextend your bankroll on this. This is more just to have a little bit of fun. Nick, what do you think of this parlay, just the way it's correlating right now?
Oh, it's super correlated. I mean, if Dak goes over his pass yards, he's throwing to Pickens. He might throw a touchdown to Turpin. And then, that's probably because they're trailing after Dallas Goedert got a touchdown. So
Yeah.
I think this is super correlated. And hey, you can even throw that Dak under rushing yards leg as well. No pun intended there with his leg. But I like that as well. I think that's a great prop that Sean had there.
All right. So let me say this parlay one more time and then we're going to get out of here. So again, it's George Pickens over on his receiving yards, Kevontae Turpin anytime touchdown, Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown, and Dak Prescott over 240 pass yards. I want to remind everybody as well to follow the account of Parlay Express in the Action Network app, because that's where you're able to see a lot of different parlays from all of our different contributors as well. And, you're able to kind of see maybe some of the different edges that they're able to see. So that's all for us today. I want to thank Grant Neiffer, Nick Giffen, Sean Koerner for joining me today for Action Island for Cowboys Eagles. We're going to be back tomorrow for Chargers Chiefs. Aloha and bon chance.